Okay.
I don't have any
You have your progress report. Get it signed for extra credit. And here's what I need you to know, and your parents know this too if they check their email. Your actual grade in here is where? Blackboard. The Infinite Campus grade is where I try my best to keep it aligned with Blackboard, but it only changes when we, like your Infinite Campus grade only changes when we finish a chapter and take an exam. Or if you like bring in notes for attendances and then I go in and update it. So please don't rely on your Infinite Campus grade. If you want to know your true grade that GNTC will slap on your transcript, check Blackboard. I have checked them, and as of today, and just to make sure that everything was updated, anytime you start a homework assignment, that changes. So that's why it's not possible for me to stay, like to keep Infinite Campus always updated. It's just not feasible.
Do you put our exam grades in the Blackboard as well?
No, because your exams now will be on my math lab, and it will sync to Blackboard.
Oh,
Yeah. The only thing that I type in Blackboard is your attendance grade, which will not go in there until the end of the 9 weeks when you've had plenty of time to turn in any notes. Your chapter R homework average and your chapter R exam grade were manually entered by me, but everything else will be synced from my math lab. Get that signed for extra credit, bring it back tomorrow. Your parents know it's coming. And at the end of, so we're going to start 1-5 today. We have a stopping point. There's a little logo to tell me when to stop. And then we will take questions on 1-4 homework, okay?
How do you see your grade on Blackboard? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a link. Just go to the back.
You just said you wanted to do a terrible.
What?
You did you a terrible.
Miss Holcombe?
That's so cool.
Yes.
I need to do that.
Did you say 1.4 is right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Did you just? Right? Do it right in front of her. You don't get extra credit. You don't even need it, so never mind.
Thank you for showing me what the forged signature looks like. Alright, let's go to the 1-5. 1-5. You do need a calculator. You will definitely want one, so go get one. It's so weird. Sorry. It's kind of developed over the last few months, mainly for the kids. My dad used to do funny British voices, and it always cracked me up, and so it's kind of started. But I found that if I'm in the middle of an argument and I switch to this voice, it always stops the argument immediately.
It's a video.
So, a strategy to get out of an argument that you see going south, just do a funny voice or an awkward, uncomfortable laugh.
And be dead silent.
And then I promise the argument will at least de-escalate a little bit. Okay, so we are looking at 1-5. We have 1-5, 1-6, and then it's awkward, but 9-1. It is relevant, but we jumped to 9-1. 1-5 takes 2 days. I have to look at 1.6 and 9.1, but we're looking at about 5 more days of instruction. Yes.
Is there like a 9.2 and 9.3 for like each end of the chapter?
No. This is the only one that's weird.
Okay.
9.1 is thrown in there because it's solving systems of equations
Okay.
and word problems. Okay, so in this lesson, we're looking at solving linear equations, a little bit more challenging than what you're used to, and then word problems with linear models, and then finding the zeros of linear functions. Well, bless you. If you will turn to this slide right here, it is laying out for you the information from your textbook regarding a linear equation in one variable. When you solve that linear equation, you are finding the value that when plugged back in would make a true statement. We've talked about that. You're finding the solution. If you have equivalent equations, it means that while they may look different, they hold the same value. Let's just dive into an example. So go to this slide. We're going to solve this equation. If you need a refresher of the principles involved in solving equations, they are at the top, but I don't think you need that refresher. We are solving 3/4x minus 1 equals 7 over 5. Your answer should be a simplified fraction, not mixed fraction, meaning a whole and then a part, not a decimal, but a simplified and possibly improper fraction. So please solve this on your paper. If you look at it, it's 3/4x minus 1 equals 7/5. So what do we need to isolate? The 3/4x, right? At first. We need to get this by itself. What's in the way? The minus 1's in the way. We're going to move it by addition. When I add that over to the right, you can either add it in your calculator and then tell your calculator to give it back to you as a fraction. I'll show you how to do that. Or it would be nice if you can start to think of the number 1 when you need it as a fraction as whatever it's getting added to. This is going to be added to 1, correct? Because I'm balancing it, yeah? If it's adding to 7/5, then you need to start training your mind to think of the 1 as 5 over 5. Because 5 divided by 5 is 1, and then you could add it in your head. But you don't have to. It's just going to make life easier when we get to certain stuff. So I'm going to add 5 over 5 right there, and then I don't have to go to my calculator. But if you want me to show you how you would do it in the calculator, it would be the fraction shortcut, because I like that. And we're adding 7/5 to 1, and it will spit it out as a reduced fraction. Yes, it's improper, but that's okay. 12 over 5. But if you notice, when I just changed the 1 to 5 over 5, I could do it in my head. Remember, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, the denominator does not change. It's like a last name, okay? Okay. Now we have 3/4x equals 12/5. We need 3/4 to go. There's 2 ways to move it. You could say, oh, I'm going to divide by 3/4 because it's attached by multiplication. But we've already talked about in our chapter R review that you don't ever divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. It's that keep, change, flip concept. So just forget the whole dividing fractions part, because you never actually do that. Just know to say to yourself, okay, I need to move that, it's got to go. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, because that would give me 12 over 12, which is a 1, which means it's gone. It's understood to be gone. And whatever you do to one side, you got to do to the other. So this would be a 1x. Now you need to remember multiplying fractions. Yes, you can type it in the calculator, but hopefully you've reached a point where you're trying to do it on your own and checking it in the calculator. You multiply straight across. So that would be 48 over 15. When you're multiplying fractions, the denominator will change, possibly. It's only adding and subtracting that it won't. Now I'm going to enter it in here. I'm just going to leave that 12/5 there and hit times, what was it, 4 over 3? Alpha y equals 4 over 3. And it will tell you the reduced fraction, which is what my math lab is going to want. They don't want 48 over 15. They want the reduced fraction. So that's solving an equation that is ugly because of the fractions, but it falls on the basic principles of solving that you already know.
So are we going to solve this manually in the test? Yes.
You'll have a calculator.
So we will be able to.
Yeah, you're going to have a calculator.
I didn't know.
When we get to I don't remember. Yeah, it's not this one. There is a test coming, an exam, where there's a non-calculator portion. Okay, go to this one. Try it. Everybody. In the club. Please tell me how what you're doing is work.
Oh, he's like a child, so he thinks you're making him go through labor. Because of how sick he was.
Something you shove at the
Right.
small.
There you go.
Focus. You should get 8 over 3.
Well, I'm not like superhuman speed.
Positive. Double check that. At the very end, it should be a negative divided by a negative.
I didn't get a negative over negative. I got 8 over 3.
Well, then you might have done it fast backwards.
I probably did do it fast second.
It happens.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Take some practice so you don't mess it up and say it's real name.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not 15x.
It's 6x. Miss Holcombe, it's negative 6x. Can you fix it for us?
What's wrong with it?
It's negative 6x. I'll come fix it myself.
No, I just want to see if you're paying attention.
You make me feel
Not
silly when you do that.
today.
I'm like, what?
I want you to find confidence and say, Miss Holcombe, I think you need to check that. Let's go.
Callie Brody's hungry.
What do you want?
I wanted those animal
You know what you want.
Who buys those? Tough luck, Brody.
I got Pop-Tart.
Is it brown sugar?
That counts as definitely
No.
not
Brown sugar's
going to last if that's how you treat it. That's
Take Pierce off. Take him on the hallway. I'll drag him out there myself.
Do you need to go take a brain break?
Yes, he does. Send him outside, please.
Go
Send
find
him to the ranch.
The Ram Ranch.
the train station.
Miss Holcombe, have you ever heard the song Ram Ranch?
No.
You know.
Okay, when you got here, you needed to clean it up. let's see, 8 minus 6, that's 2. Then you have the freedom of choice of what to move where. I personally chose to move the negative 3x to the left because it didn't bother me. Some people might have moved the 6x to the right because then you would have had a positive value in front of the x. It does not matter. You get negative 8 and then Alright, let me show you something. So that's solving it by hand. Let me show you a way to solve it in your graphing calculator. Please go to your calculator. Okay.
Oh, that's Pierce, get up.
Right.
Yes.
That's the puff over there.
Yes.
Get out. We're not starting this lesson again until Pierce gets up.
I have those moments every
Good.
It's gonna be a slow migration. I got a lot of objects.
What is that?
I love that.
Okay, so you're going to take this equation and I'm going to show you a second technique for solving. It does involve the calculator. It might be a technique for checking your answer. I'd really like you to keep the solving by hand skills sharp. A technique for checking in your calculator is to enter the left side in Y1, the right side in Y2, and find the point of intersection. So I would suggest entering the original left and right in case you messed up right here when you distributed. If you messed up when you distributed, then obviously this is not going to serve any purpose because you're going to think that you had it correct from the beginning. So go to Y1. Sorry. I'm projecting.
The,
Is that on video?
The other word is like a crap.
Yes.
Oh no.
Stupid piece of crap.
I got it.
That always works.
From the 80s, y'all.
It always works.
All right.
1, 2.
Go to Y equals. Hold on, we do need to turn the plots off, otherwise this is going to be jacked up. So if you will arrow up, it will highlight the plot that's on, and you just hit enter, it'll turn it off. And now you don't have that data that's going to try to show up as well. Then come here and clear it. So I'm going to enter the left side in Y1, and I'm going to enter the right side in Y2. And I'm going to check it because it doesn't always type right. And then now what we're going to do is go to the graph and try to find where they intersect. I'm going to hit zoom 6 to start. Okay, I can see that the point of intersection is right here. You can either zoom in on it or you can just run with this. It doesn't matter. I'm going to run with this. I don't need to go any closer. Oh, sorry. Okay, here's how you calculate the intersection. We're going to go to the calc option. So we have to hit second, calc, intersect. It's going to ask 3 questions. It's going to say, what's the first curve? What's the second curve? Give me a guess. Now, it says curve because when they made the graphing calculator, they were expecting you to use it for curves, right? Quadratics, cubics, trig, quartics, yada, yada, yada. They were not expecting you to stay with linear. So, yes, it's a line. No, it doesn't curve. It's okay. Use the word curve as in graph. Where's your first graph? The cursor is going to naturally start on one of them. You just hit enter. Then it's going to jump to the other graph and say, where's your second curve? Hit enter. Then it's going to say, where do you guess the intersection to be? And you just arrow until the cursor gets near that intersection. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then you say enter. Now, we were only looking at the x coordinate, right? So the y coordinate's irrelevant because this equation only had an x in it. 2.6 repeated is 8/3. you can go to your calculator and divide 8 by 3, you get the same decimal. So that's how you can check it. Let's put some notes on your paper. So calculator, enter left in y1, and what I mean by left is the left side of the equals equation. Enter right in y2, zoom 6, and then hopefully that finds it. If that doesn't find it, you do have to possibly adjust your window. And then second, calc, intersect, and you have, I'll put it underneath, it's going to ask you 3 questions. It's going to ask you 3 questions to proceed.
Bro, you had it. I swear if you say anything again.
Where's the paint? All right, let's go to the next slide.
That's what she said. You didn't hear that.
To set you up for my math lab.
Oh, no.
Not good.
Oh,
I know that this one.
go to this slide right here. If you want, you can highlight this so that you understand the purpose of this slide. This slide is an example of where you solve it and something weird happens. So please go ahead and start solving it.
What in the world?
You're not one color. You better not be color.
Sorry, I cheated.
Right.
All right.
I just want to sorry.
If you were to look at this and try to move an x term over to the other x term, I'm going to show my work so you can understand what's happening here. I'm getting rid of the one on the right, and I'm coming over, bringing it to the one on the left, but they both cancel. And then you need to write what you're left with. I'm left with 7 equals 17.
False.
That is a statement that is telling you what type of special case you have. You simply ask yourself, is it true or false? Does 7, I'm going to put in quotes, does 7 equal 17? And the answer is no. So therefore, it's false. 7 does not equal 17, which means there is no solution. There is no solution. So we're going to take notes. If the variable disappears, and the remaining statement is false, then there is no solution. Then you would keep solving it. Yeah. If there's still an x in it, there's going to be an answer. And 0 is an answer. Yeah.
No, I'm saying.
Oh.
If it was 1/3 x equals.
Right?
So,
So you would, so
Yeah.
1/3 x equals 5x, you would subtract the 1/3. Yeah, and then it would be like terms, and then you would have 0 there. You do it, yeah. Please.
What is it talking about?
Severe warning.
Well, I'm trying to get involved in the senior activities. So that was one of the things he was talking about, but I don't know why he's definitely tasty. I don't care that much just yet, but I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna keep you in mind.
Hey, I can do it too.
I'm gonna keep you in mind.
She's quiet about
Oh.
Aubrey's not. Yeah, well, I'll come in here and yell at her.
I can see Aubrey. What are you talking about?
Hey, by the way,
It's like looking, you know, like
WWE,
looking
UFC
up like
has an
there's
official
something
combined.
I want to ask Johnson. I know
Well,
they're Johnson.
Bro-
What is he gonna do with the water? Yeah, you got me.
Oh,
Foodie butters. Okay.
Whatever.
So it's a great day, Doc.
Tuesdays or I don't know what Tuesdays.
Oh, we're recording.
Trade Tuesday. I love her laugh. You might want to highlight that when it's
I don't think
false,
she knows
there's
what I
no
said.
solution. That's the takeaway here. You can even come in here and do the slash.
Sorry.
Actually, didn't.
Now go to the next one.
Did you say you like my laugh?
Dude, the only person
I didn't see that.
He's gonna booty bump me? Yeah.
You want these Arizona?
Please
Let's just slide.
This is such a good topic.
Pivot. Let's pivot back to the map.
Exercise. Brody.
This is without fear. That really is the opposite.
Yeah, Brody. Easy now, buddy.
All right, you're supposed to be solving the next one. Definitely just dropped gummy bears on the floor. Yeah, you did.
Where?
Oh, it's getting dark behind you.
Oh, I hope everybody's so poppy.
Please solve this one. Don't eat that.
There's another one.
Oh, it's
Let me go hit 405 on power clean.
So we're only outside for an hour. It's always just right now.
Please solve this one. Stay
Yes, ma'am.
focused. Stay focused. Laser focus. Oh, that's 1/3.
Like, this is something my grandma would expect.
We only have 2 more slides of work.
It's not necessary though.
Oh my God, it's a little windy out there.
Focus, focus.
I already did.
Focus, focus. Everybody focus.
Please don't ever say
I love you.
I thought it was funny.
That sounds like something you should
They're not laughing at you.
Y'all make me feel so good about
Was
myself.
this Oh yeah, I thought you said. But I was curious. Honestly, come back.
Don't worry.
This is all Tom Ryan.
Did you move this and find out that those cancel? You bring down what you're left with, and you ask yourself, does 3 equal 3? And the answer is true. So, here we go. If the variable disappears,
Sound like a pop gun.
Who's wheezing?
That's Shannon.
that was Brody.
Brody.
You sound like a pop gun.
Hey, I think we're a
These
little.
details going on.
We're done anyway.
That was a new supper.
No, your
kids are running outside.
Oh, they're still running.
Power
I guess
through,
they're
give me
taking
your
the time.
attention.
What if I was like,
No,
The intense riding on the board.
it's getting hot here.
We need a break.
No, it ain't hot in here.
When you're solving the equation, listen, if the variable disappears and the remaining statement is true, then it equates to infinitely many solutions, which means all real numbers. You can pick any number you want, you can plug it in for x, and you will get the same expression on the left as you would on the right. No brain break. We have 2 more slides of work. 3 slides total, 2 slides of work.
All right.
What?
In my phone.
What did you say?
Holcombe, I really like sitting here.
That's fine.
Yes.
Excuse me. No.
I'm right here.
All right. I can't breathe. All right.
Are we your favorite class?
Yes.
My
Can you look at my calculator?
Okay. So we've covered the 2 special case scenarios. By the way, those are the only 2. There's no extra special case. It's either no real solution or infinite solutions, or there is an answer and it's a single solution. Go to this slide right here. The purpose of this slide is to help you in reading word problems and formulating a plan to be able to solve them. I know word problems are usually everyone's least favorite part of math. I hope I'm coaching you to be able to do word problems confidently, or at least a little bit more confident than before. So let's look at this word problem. Industrial work.
I can't.
I threw a W in the word robot. Industrial robots. I'm just not. Sorry.
We saved these for tomorrow.
Nope.
That's not what I have.
Companies in China purchased 36,000 industrial robots in 2013. This is 54% more than the number of robots purchased by companies in the U.S. Here's our source. How many robots were bought by companies in the U.S. in 2013? Okay, so the first thing you do is you read it one time through. You make a mess of it like I just did. Then you read it again, and you mark out the info that's not necessary. You underline the info that's necessary, or circle it. You take notes on the problem. You also think of what have we just been doing. We've just been solving what?
Function.
Equations.
Function. Same thing.
So clearly we're looking at solving an equation here. It's just masked behind a word problem, okay? So reading through it, I don't care that this is about industrial robots. In fact, I'm going to mark out the word industrial because I'm getting tongue-tied on it every time. Where are they? There we go. I just want to say robot. I don't care about the source. All right, and then you have United States can be abbreviated with just U.S. Okay, now we're going to take notes. Take notes. China purchased how many?
36,500.
Let's take notes. China purchased, I definitely just wrote 5. 36,560 robots in what year?
313.
Does the year matter?
No.
No, not really. So you could erase that after if you were writing it. If you read through the whole problem, the year doesn't even play a role. So let's take that off. I'm literally, no, you're fine. I'm showing you how you would work word problems. Is you would read it, you would think to yourself, is that necessary? You might go back and erase it. It's almost like you're engaging in a conversation with the word problem. And that will help you formulate a way to solve it. Okay, China purchased 36,000 robots in 2013. We said that year doesn't matter. This is 54% more than the number of robots purchased by the U.S. So let's take note. The 36,000 robots is 54% more And what is the overall question here? So how many robots were bought by the U.S.? So you would come down to the bottom and you would say to yourself, the U.S. bought blank robots, so that you remember the goal. We have how many China bought. We have a parameter telling us how much the China number is compared to the U.S. number. We're going to set up an equation and solve for it to get the U.S. number. Before we do this, we have to create a variable and assign it to something in the problem. You're going to learn that I always assign it to something that relates to what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find something regarding the U.S., right? So I'm going to let U equal what I'm supposed to find. What am I trying to find? The number of robots bought by the U.S. So I'm going to let U equal the number of U.S. robots. Our word problems are going to be like this from here on out, where you have to think of a variable, sometimes two variables. You assign them, you have to label them, and then you write the equation, and then you solve it. Okay? So we've got our China number, we've got the parameter telling us how much more it is than the U.S. We've got our variable, we know the goal. Now we have to write the equation, which is the toughest part. All we have to work with is that 36,000 robots is 54% more than the U.S. So who bought more? Okay, so if it helps you, think about it in terms of like a bar graph. Who bought more? You just said it. China bought more than the U.S., right? So we're trying to, there's two ways to do this. You can either subtract the value, the difference of China's purchase to get to the U.S., or you can fill in the gap of the U.S. purchase so that they're equal. The goal is they need to be equal, right? So we're going to write our equation. All we have to work with is the 54%. If it's 54% more than the U.S., that means, look at this, the U.S. amount is in here, how much? Well, at first, the 100%, and then an additional 54%. Do you see the visual there? This is the toughest part, is understanding that visual of, you've got the U.S. value in there, 100% plus the 54% gap. So, here we go. I'm going to write the equation, then I'm going to explain it to you, and then I think you're going to understand.
Mm-hmm.
1.54. I've found in the past when I do that, some people tend to say, I don't get where the 1.54 came from. So I try to compartmentalize it into you got the whole, the one, then you got the additional. So yeah, either one works. Because my next step is going to be 1.54.
So could you not just write it out from the beginning, 36,560 subtract 54% equals U? Could you not just do it that way? And then put it in the calculator as, well, 0.0.
Equals U, then as long as it equals, yeah, because that would be the technique of subtracting the China numbers down. So that should still work.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is just the harder way.
Harder way.
Oh, sorry. For me.
I've found that people tend to see adding till they're equal
Oh.
better than subtracting. Yeah. Because I can always say who had more, who bought more, and so everyone's like China. So then people seem to understand, okay, we got to bring the U.S. up.
Right.
So this is the U.S. value plus the 54% extra. If you want to, I would probably label the 1 right here, and maybe even take note that this is the 100%, is in decimal form, right? You're not throwing the number 100 in there and the number 54 in there. It's decimal form of percents. All right, let's solve this. Now we're going to divide by 1.54. Can you have, okay, now I'm going to ask this question, and some of you are going to be like, well, yeah, you could if it's still in production. Can you have 0.26 of a robot?
Yes.
Technically, no, it's either there or it's not, right? We're not talking about a quarter of a robot manufactured. So how many robots did the U.S. buy? It's safe to round down because they did not buy 23,741, but they did buy 23,740. In my math lab, you will read the little blue suggestion under the boxes, and it'll tell you how to round, okay? Look for that. I'd hate for you to get it wrong because you rounded wrong. So they bought 23,740 robots. And then you can check by going back and plugging that number in right here in the right-hand side, and you enter it, and you should get 36,540-ish because you rounded. So it's going to be off a little. That's one of the tougher problems, and it's because of that whole percent thing. If you go, we got one more, and then we're stopping. You're going to see it's not messed up. No, it's not. I'm positive. They don't want the total. They want how many were in Italy, how many were in France.
Yeah. It tells us that 47,000 U.S. students studied abroad in Italy and in France.
That's your total.
Yeah.
How many only went to Italy? See what I mean? Yeah. They're saying basically how many have the stamp of Italy on their passport, how many have it? Well, I didn't write the question.
World.
Wait. Can we try to do this once ourselves?
I can see it. I mean, I'm gonna laugh. You probably would.
If Brody fell on that stage, I would cry.
I think the entire class.
All the band kids that you gave laps to, they're gonna
I've never given this in space. This is space. The back leg kind of fell off.
Almost.
Miss Holcombe, that would be so good.
I would never do that, but I'm definitely picturing it now. It's funny. All right, let's read this. Studying abroad. By the way, let me say, so I hope to teach you more than math. I hope I teach you like some things that you need to be successful in
Can you
college.
teach us how to do our taxes?
Yes, hire a CPA,
What's that?
certified public accountant.
Oh.
And then they're responsible for your taxes.
What if you want to do it all by
You
yourself?
need to budget the money to pay to have someone else take that. If you're loitering and you're not claiming your money, then it's a tax fraud.
If you're homeless.
If you make below a certain
If you're not claiming the money that you're panhandling, that's a tax fraud. Which, by the way, a panhandler in California went on record as making like 60-something thousand a year. No, I already booked my ticket. I'm trying to get out there.
You have to make a record with some. I have 2 kids and nowhere to live. Please
Yeah. No, what I was going to say, so studying abroad, if you go to college, you don't have to, but if you go to college, if you are the type of person that can handle being immersed in another culture, I would strongly suggest going on a study abroad semester, class, year, whatever you can budget and handle. It's one of the things that I regret not doing. I met my husband. I probably should put this on video. I met
it's
my
fine, it's fine.
husband
Leave it. I'll get it in a minute.
in college, and I never went studied abroad because I was already in that serious relationship, and I couldn't do it. But I wish I had. I wish I had studied abroad before I got in a serious relationship because I love to travel. So if you're like that, if you like to travel, do it. There are all sorts of summer semesters. There's a Maymester where you're only gone for a few weeks in May. There's countries like all over the place that will take graduate or undergrad study abroad students, and it's a wonderful experience. All right. In the 2012 school year, you had 47,000 students studied abroad in Italy and in France. There were 12,000 more students in Italy than in France. Here's our source. We already know that this is not relevant. Find the number of U.S. students. This is relevant. This is telling us they want the U.S. students studying abroad in Italy and in France. And as Jack pointed out, the question is a little bit ambiguous. They're saying how many went to Italy, how many went to France. So what do you think will be my variables? F and I. So we're going to let F equal number of students in France. We're going to let I, and I'm doing a capital I, of students in Italy. Now we've got to come up with an equation. There's two equations in this word problem this time. Instead of one equation, this time we have two. And that's because how many variables do we have?
Two.
We have two. That's kind of your indicator. Okay? We have two variables, so we have two equations. Usually, one of the equations is quantity. Quantity as in total. And then usually your other equation, you could say quality, but I'm going to say value because quality of a student doesn't make sense. I'm going to say value as in how many. So quantity refers to total. Can you tell me how many total students are in this program? 47,000. They're telling you right here. This is the total. So however many are in France and however many are in Italy equals 47,058 students. So the number of students in France added to the number of students in Italy will total to 47,000. The next equation comes from that second sentence. There were 12,638 more kids in Italy than in France. So read it once. We read it. Now read it again slower and ask yourself, who had more? There were 12,000 more kids in Italy than France. Who had more?
Italy.
Italy had more. Visualize the bar chart. If Italy had more, how many would I need to add to France so they're equal? I just told you the difference. 12,000, right? So if you visualize that bar chart, you can see that Italy had more. And if I add 12,638 to France, I would be equal to Italy. Now, going off of what you said in the last example, could you do that conversely and subtract off from Italy to equal France? And the answer is yes. All right, we have two equations here. We have two variables. You should notice that one of the equations already has what by itself? The I is already by itself. We're going to get a highlighter so you can visualize this. I'm going to take this expression for I,
I'm plugging in.
and I'm going to plug it in right there where there's an I. So I am using substitution. I'm just going to copy the whole problem now because I like to start with the original. All right. Oh, it switched. Sorry. Okay, we'll back the F. I'm gonna back the letter. I'm sorry. I'm gonna back that. I'm gonna be quiet.
Look, struggling
Is that
now.
not funny to you? That was funny. No.
You're not laughing either, you're totally here.
No.
That was
Turn
funny.
around.
We should announce that.
Here, turn around.
Are y'all being nice?
No.
Am I ever nice?
I'm putting y'all in a buddy shirt.
Ellie, are you okay?
All right, let's solve it. Let's solve this. We got 2F. 2F. There we go. Moving on. All right. We're gonna subtract the 12,000. And then we're gonna divide by 2. Now, what did I just find? I just found the number of students in France.
Good. I got 2 F's.
Okay, how do I get Italy?
Plug it into the value of it.
To get Italy, you just go back to either one of the equations that you created and plug France in. I would plug it into the second one because I is already by itself. So it would be the France number plus the 12,000, and you would find that Italy has 29,848 students. Which is why it's really important when you assign your variables that the variable matches what you're trying to find, so that when you go to type your answer in MyMathLab, you type the number in the correct category. Okay? And that is the hand telling us to stop. If you have 1-4 homework questions, get those out.